The villagers had been living in the shadow of a terrifying legend that had been passed down for centuries. According to the legend, a werewolf who had lived in their village had been wrongly accused and executed many years ago. Since that day, a curse had befallen the village, and fear had replaced peace. After the death of the werewolf, strange events began to occur in the village. On moonlit nights, cries and howls could be heard. The villagers believed that the spirit of the werewolf still sought revenge. However, over time, the legend was forgotten, and the villagers came to accept this horrifying event as just a story. But one night, under the light of the full moon, a terrifying truth resurfaced. In the forest outside the village, the ghost of the werewolf appeared, with bloodied claws and eyes burning with anger. It was consumed by a thirst for vengeance. The return of the werewolf brought with it the reckoning for the injustice and suffering of the past. At first, the villagers witnessed this spectacle in fear. However, they quickly took action because they now knew that the spirit of the werewolf had returned to punish them. If they couldn't right the wrongs of the past, the wrath of the werewolf would consume them all. The villagers remembered the legend and realized the injustice behind the werewolf's death. Now, they had to come together to make amends for the past and bring peace to the spirit of the werewolf. But this was not an easy task. They had to do everything in their power to correct the injustice and unite to protect their village from the werewolf's wrath. The werewolf's vengeance reminded them of their past, and now the villagers knew they had an opportunity to make amends. However, their time was limited, and when the moon rose to the sky on the night of the full moon, the spirit of the werewolf would come to their village. The united villagers gathered to uncover the truth of the past, hoping to make amends for the injustice and protect their village from the wrath of the werewolf. This harrowing tale would be the story of brave villagers seeking revenge and justice. The villagers had come together to deal with the return of the werewolf and the threat to their village. They were determined to do their best to right the past injustice and bring peace to the spirit of the werewolf. In the second part, we will see how the villagers worked together in this challenging task and what they did to uncover the werewolf's past story. The villagers began to trace the traces of the past unjust execution. They examined old records, interviewed witnesses and their families. Slowly, they began to uncover the true story of the werewolf who had been executed, revealing that he was innocent and that the real culprit was someone else. The leaders of the village informed the villagers of the truth and offered their apologies for the injustice. This apology was the first step in bringing peace to the spirit of the werewolf. The villagers understood that the werewolf spirit should not suffer any more than those who had taken his revenge. When a full moon night arrived, the villagers called upon the ghost of the werewolf. This time, they told him that justice had been served and that he had been unjustly killed. The spirit of the werewolf felt at peace and accepted that he would no longer threaten the village. The ghost disappeared in the light of the full moon and vanished before the eyes of the villagers. The village was now protected from the werewolf's wrath, and the past injustice had been corrected. The villagers had seen the power of working together and achieving justice. The story of the werewolf had come to an end, but the villagers' strength in unity and the power to deliver justice had been further strengthened. Their village could now live in peace, and the curse of the werewolf had been lifted. This harrowing tale began as a story of revenge and justice, but ended as a result of working together and correcting past injustices. Justice had been served, and the village was now free from the shadow of the werewolf's ghost. The villagers continued to work together to uncover the werewolf's story and rectify the past injustice. They had to do everything in their power to find out who the real culprit was. This effort, which began in the second part, deepened even further in the third part. The villagers continued to examine old records, and during this process, they received a crucial clue from an elderly woman. The woman had witnessed the events of that time and knew who the real culprit was. This information was crucial to completing the werewolf's story. According to the woman's account, the real culprit was a member of an influential family in the village and had been protected by the village leaders to cover up the incident. But now, the village leaders had decided to rectify the past mistake in the name of justice. The villagers continued their efforts to gather more information about the real culprit during their quest. They found the evidence needed to rectify this past injustice. The village leaders prepared to confront the real culprit and save their village from vengeance when another full moon night arrived. The village leaders gathered the courage to confront the real culprit. The ghost of the werewolf would also bear witness to this event. Everything was ready for justice to be served. However, things did not go as planned. When the real culprit confronted the village leaders, the ghost of the werewolf, waiting in the depths of the forest outside the village, reappeared. It was there to witness the delivery of justice. The struggle between the ghost of the werewolf and the real culprit was watched in horror by the villagers. In the end, the ghost of the werewolf captured the real culprit, and justice was served. The ghost disappeared in the light of the full moon and had finally found peace. With the conclusion of the werewolf's story, the villagers had rectified the past injustice and brought peace to the ghost of the werewolf. Now, their village was safe, and they were protected from the vengeance of the werewolf. This terrifying tale had begun as a story of revenge and justice, but it had come to an end as a result of collective effort and the rectification of past wrongs. Justice had been served, and the village was finally free from the shadow of the werewolf's ghost. The villagers had taken courageous steps to rectify the past injustice and bring peace to the ghost of the werewolf. However, there were still some unanswered questions. In the fourth part, we will follow the story of the villagers who pursued answers to these questions. With the conclusion of the werewolf story, the villagers were determined to fully illuminate this dark incident from their past. They began to examine old records and documents in more detail. During their research, the villagers discovered that the family of the real culprit still held influence in the village and would do everything in their power to prevent the truth from coming to light. This posed a new obstacle for the villagers. The village leaders put in more effort to uncover the truth and complete the delivery of justice. However, the real culprit and their family fled the village to avoid facing justice. The villagers initiated a pursuit into the depths of the forest to capture the real culprit and their family. This pursuit showcased both the determination of the villagers and the dangers of the dark forest, but the villagers did not give up on serving justice. The fourth part narrates the adventures and challenges faced by the villagers as they pursued the real culprit and their family. The villagers were making one last effort to ensure justice was served and to erase the traces of past injustice completely. However, it seemed that the real culprit and their family had disappeared into the depths of the forest. What secrets would these pursued trails ultimately reveal? Would justice be served? Or would the real culprit escape punishment forever? The conclusion of this terrifying tale was drawing near. The villagers faced a long and challenging struggle as they tracked down the real culprit and their family. The days in the depths of the forest tested the villagers' patience and determination. However, in the end, they managed to find the trail of the real culprit. The ghost of the werewolf guided the villagers and helped them confront the real culprit. The villagers found the guilty family in an abandoned cabin deep in the forest. However, the guilty family was ready to put up a final resistance. The conflict between the villagers and the real guilty family ended in victory for those who had rectified the village's injustice and worked for justice. The guilty family surrendered and confessed to their past crimes. Justice had finally been served. The ghost of the werewolf found peace by witnessing that justice had been served and disappeared into the light of the full moon. The village was now completely free from the shadow of the werewolf's ghost. Past injustice had been rectified, and justice had been served. The villagers came together at the end of this terrifying tale and looked at each other with gratitude. Thanks to their teamwork and the power of justice, their village could now live in peace. The werewolf's story was complete. This terrifying tale had begun as a story of revenge and justice, but it had come to an end thanks to the villagers' determination to work together and rectify past wrongs. Justice had been served, and the village was now free from the shadow of the werewolf's ghost. Past injustice was now forgotten, and the villagers emerged from this challenging experience stronger together.